I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. And this is Currents. If you can't stand the heat, we'll show you some places to cool off.
Oh, every day's a holiday in Brooklyn, so that's the place you ought to be.
Crowds in the streets of Williamsburg mean it's time for the feast of the Giglio.
And baseball fans hit a home run for Catholic education.
They're all looking for one thing, the chance at a better life, and the Catholic education gives them that first stronghold, that first foothold.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. New Yorkers and others across the Northeast continue to suffer under a blistering heat wave with temperatures near or above record highs every day this week so far. Yeah,
electricity provider Con Edison reported some power outages across the city today as more people crank up the air conditioning and put a strain on New York's aging power grid. New York City Transit shut down elevators and escalators at some subway stations to try to conserve energy.
For people temporarily without power and others who don't have air conditioning at all, temperatures at or above 100 degrees can be unbearable and even unhealthy. The National Weather Service says relief is on the way as temps are expected to cool off by a few degrees heading into the weekend. Yeah,
a few degrees, but many New Yorkers did find relief today, actually, just down the block from their homes. That's what I found out when I visited a Catholic Charities senior center in Brooklyn.
It was hot, real hot.
Yesterday's high temperature in Central Park, 103 degrees. That's a new record high for July 6th in New York City. And all this record-breaking summer heat brings health risks with it.
Look, heat illness is a serious matter. People do die from it. You mentioned it earlier. So we're telling people, ensure that you hydrate yourself. If you don't have to be out fully every minute of the day, step inside in a cool place.
The city has set up cooling centers in all 5 boroughs to help people do just that. One such place is the Catholic Charities Glenwood Senior Center in Brooklyn. On any given day, more than 100 seniors gather from 8 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. They share meals and socialize. But with temperatures in the triple digits, there's another important reason to stop by.
Yesterday we opened to 7 o'clock. Tonight we're going to be open to 7 o'clock. You're welcome to come and cool off when you finish working and see how many people be here.
They play games, they have dominoes, we play cards. So it's a way for them to beat the heat and not stay inside their apartment.
The City Office of Emergency Management says designated cooling centers like this one are open anytime the heat index is 95 degrees or above for at least 2 days, or anytime the temperature itself is above 100. Air conditioning units at Glenwood keep it nice and cool inside, even as the temperature rises outside.
Oh, every day's a holiday in Brooklyn, so that's the place you ought to be.
Al Mazer is a regular visitor to the Glenwood Senior Center. He's also a songwriter.
My wife wrote the lyric, and I set it to music. It is the official theme song of Brooklyn, New York. Designated so by Marty Markowitz. I have a very lovely citation at home.
Al says Glenwood has become a big part of his life.
It's a godsend, really, because I mean, there's always something doing, and it so happens we have a very good cook. Well, it just happens. In this particular climate that we're having now, it's also, it's great. It's great. I mean, when people have the opportunity to walk in off the street and just cool off, even while they're waiting for a bus.
If you're looking for a way to cool off during this massive heat wave, coming inside playing a game of pool sounds pretty good, doesn't it? That's just one way that people here at the Glenwood Senior Center are beating the heat this summer. And yes, I said people because I mean people of all ages, not just seniors.
It's very hot outside. It's about 100 degrees. I've been out there. It's very hot. So anyone that would like to just take a seat here and just beat the heat, so be it. Yeah.
I hope that is continue. Cause I know there's gonna be a budget cut. I hope this center don't be the budget cut because this center here take care of people all over Brooklyn come to this center.
We're here just having fun.
We can I saw a little pool shark over here.
And they told me to go jump in the pool, and I guess I took it the wrong
Nicely
done.
way.
Thank you. Well, I've actually written more about what you can do to beat the heat and how you can locate a cooling center in your neighborhood as well. It's over on our website. Just go to currentsny.net, click on Riding the Wave.
Lots to do over there. All right, well, stay tuned. There's much more currents coming up. When we come back, we will have the day's headlines, including Catholic bishops in Poland have mixed reviews for the country's new president. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Coming up in just a bit, going to bat for Catholic education.
But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. Bishops in Poland are giving their country's new president a mixed reception. One archbishop called new President Bronislaw Komorowski a man of ideas with personal qualities, while another expressed concern about the election of a candidate whose party is already in power. Komorowski is a former seminary history teacher and father of 5. He was elected in a runoff on July 4th, defeating the brother of the late president, Lech Kaczynski. Bishops in Venezuela have responded to a slew of insults from the country's president. In a television interview earlier this week, Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez called Catholic bishops in his country a bunch of bums and said they should get a job. The bishops responded that they categorically reject the insults and say they will issue their own statement on that situation. The former head of the church in Belgium was questioned for several hours on Tuesday as part of an investigation of allegations of child abuse by priests. A retired priest accused Cardinal Godfried Daniels of covering up abuse. That's a charge Daniels denies.
A Connecticut priest is charged with stealing more than $1 million from his own church. And that's just the beginning, as we hear from Susan Raff.
Sacred Heart Church in Waterbury now faces one of the worst scandals. Its priest accused of committing an unspeakable sin. Father Kevin Gray, trusted to lead his parish, has been arrested for stealing more than $1 million from the church.
I think that $750,000 at a minimum is the appropriate bond in this matter.
The Archdiocese alerted police because they suspected Father Gray was stealing. An investigation turned up credit card statements and other documents, including receipts for male escorts. When police went to a man's apartment in New York City, he told them Gray told him he was a lawyer and that since 2005, Mr. Gray has been paying the rent for the apartment the whole time. He also told them Mr. Gray has paid the tuition for classes he attends at Harvard University. And while police were at the apartment, Father Gray arrived. And when confronted, police say Mr. Gray stated he would use his credit cards to purchase clothes, dinners, and hotel rooms and male escort services. He would rent hotel rooms at various hotels in New York City and have male escorts meet him there. Mr. Gray, they say, stated he is gay and does have a problem with the church's position on homosexuality. While Gray was being arraigned, his parishioners were showing support for a man they say has been kind and caring.
I know they're not true. I know he has helped everybody and he's not what they think who he is.
That report from Susan Raff. The Archdiocese of Honolulu has issued a statement praising Hawaii Governor Linda Lingle's veto of a civil unions bill. The bill would have given same-sex couples the same rights as heterosexual couples. Lingle says the issue deserves to be decided by the people of Hawaii. And Spanish youth are being encouraged to help the needy attend World Youth Day in Madrid. Organizers at the 2011 event say Spanish youth who sign up can then contribute to a fund to help young people from Latin America attend. In other World Youth Day news, on Friday, Pope Benedict became the first person to register for the gathering.
Stay tuned. There's more currents straight ahead. Just ahead, it's fun and games and a piece of Italian tradition, the Feast of the Giglio.
The dancing of the Giglio on the boat really what make our feast unique, much different than any other feast you've ever experienced.
Welcome back. Well, if it is July in Brooklyn, that can only mean one thing: The annual festival at Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Williamsburg gets underway tonight and it runs until next Sunday night. I will actually be going to check it out on Sunday, and I'll have a full report for that next week right here on Currents.
That's right. It's the Giglio. But first, to get a first look at what was in store, I sat down last week to chat with Mount Carmel's pastor, Monsignor Joseph Calise, and also one of the event's organizers, Phil Franco. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here today on Currents. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for the invitation.
Well, thanks for coming back here. It's hard to believe it's been a year since the Feast of Giglio already, and we sat in these exact same spots and talked about it last year. But for those who might not be familiar with the feast and its meaning, kind of just the shortened Reader's Digest version, Dr. Frankel, we'll start with you, if you will.
Absolutely. Well, really, the Giglio on the boat, the dancing of the Giglio on the boat, really what make our feast unique, much different than any other feast you've ever experienced. I think a lot of people think that they know everything about Italian feasts with the sausage and peppers and things, but the story of the Giglio goes back to St. Paulinus in the 5th century. St. Paulinus was the bishop of the town of Nola, which is a small town near Naples in Italy, and his town was invaded by North African conquerors who came and took the children away. And basically, in place of a widow's son, St. Paulinus offered his life so that the woman would not be without her son. And so he was taken as captive. There was a Turkish sultan who found out about this act of heroic virtue and really went and bartered for the life of Paulinus as well as the children of the town. And on his boat, he brought them back to the town of Nola. And the people were so happy that they greeted Paulinus and the Turk and the children with towers of lilies. The word Giglio means lily in Italian.
Right.
And so they built tremendous towers of lilies. In Italy, there are 8. Here in Brooklyn, we have one tremendous 85-foot, 2-ton tower called the Giglio that the men dance around, including the boat. And they reenact that moment when Paulinus returned to the town victorious with the children and the Turk. So each year that's what's reenacted, and it's really an amazing spectacle.
It's a wonderful celebration. I remember watching our piece on it last year and just seeing all these men carrying this huge tower of flowers, and I'm like, how in the world do they do that? And this is something too that tower is taking a long time to kind of put together. Monsignor, I know that folks have been working on it for a while.
Since last October.
Yeah, we saw each other. I remember back in, I think, January or February when you did the wrestling event at Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and you're like, they're building the Giglio right now, and I'm like, it's so early, so it takes a while.
Yeah, there's a group of about 5 or 6 men who've been coming every Saturday since October, and they just recreated the entire face of the Giglio. Now, the face is placed onto an aluminum base.
Right.
Now, that's kept from year to year. But the front piece is usually just repaired, maybe altered a little bit to give to the capo's taste or, whatever his theme might be.
Right.
But the one that we had last year was beaten over the course of the last few years. And just for safety's sake, needed to be completely redone.
Yeah.
So this began as early as last October.
Wow, it's amazing.
They did a beautiful job with the new one.
Now, you were telling me too that the kind of the face of the neighborhood there around the parish is kind of changing a little bit around in Williamsburg. Tell me a little bit about that and about how maybe people who are moving into the neighborhood might not understand what the feast is all about. They might just see this huge tower of flowers out on the street and all these people having a great time and not really know the meaning behind it all.
Right. You know what? I think almost all the newcomers to the neighborhood will appreciate the artistic merit. Williamsburg right now is seeing a tremendous change. There are a lot of hipsters moving in. There are a lot of musicians and artists that are moving in. And they're not necessarily going to be familiar with like a traditional idea of a procession with a statue, or we do something called the questor, which is a selling of the bread. That comes from the old tradition of the people baking breads to sell and then using that money to pay the band.
Right.
Well, we're bringing this into a culture to which this is very foreign. Well, it becomes our obligation to teach them what these things mean. I don't think they're closed to this type of traditional Catholic Italian celebration. I think they just won't understand it. So we printed different brochures that explain each element of the feast that we'll be distributing along the route to people that are curious, to people that are maybe confused or concerned.
Right.
You know,
they just don't understand what all is happening out on the street.
And the reality is, for 11 days, we're there, actually 12 days, from the 7th through the 18th of July. It is an inconvenience. Every night there is no traffic.
Yeah.
There are the lights. there will be the music. Now, those people who are right near the feast, who've been putting up with this for their part of 123 years, accept it, know it's coming, they're prepared for it.
Right.
For the new people, this is an inconvenience. This is something that they're not prepared for.
Yeah.
So it's to our benefit to explain just what we're doing.
And Phil, one last question to you really quickly here. I know that this is something that you, of course, have studied and it's been a big part of your life, the Feast of the Giglio. That being said, kind of plays into something that I know you're very passionate about, is getting young people involved in this. How can you go about getting young people involved in the Feast of the Giglio and therefore getting them involved in the church?
Absolutely. That's an excellent question. The feast is a tremendous vehicle both for evangelization, particularly as we explained our traditions to the newer people coming in, but also for education for the young people. Monsignor mentioned, for example, the many people that come every Saturday to prepare the Giglio. Many of them are young men, teenagers really, who are interested in becoming part of the tradition. And it really gives them, rather than sitting in a classroom and learning about the faith, learning about the saints, and learning about what we do as church, it gives them a personal experience of that. And so they're not just sitting in a room and reading about the church, they're living it. And the feast, it's really a wonderful means of incorporating young people into the church by such things as building the Giglio, carrying the Giglio, just being part of it.
There's also a children's Giglio.
Yeah.
There's a mini version of the Giglio that the youngsters will carry one night. They'll do their own lift.
That's wonderful. Well,
and there'll be children under that Giglio 3-4 years old.
That's amazing.
Up until maybe 11, 12.
Right. That's amazing. It'll be a wonderful sight to see. And of course, this just scratches the surface. But our very short time here has come and gone. We'll post more about the Giglio online, where people can go if they want to see it, learn more about it, and be a part of this wonderful feast that takes place every year in Brooklyn. Dr. Phil Franco, also Monsignor Joseph Calise, thank you so much, guys, for being here. We really appreciate it.
Matt, thanks very much for having us.
Yes.
I get to hang out with all my Italian brethren on Sunday.
There you go. And I had no idea there was a kids' Giglio, too.
I didn't either. When he's like, they're all under there, I'm like, oh, goodness gracious. I'm like, everybody be careful.
The big one he said weighs 2 tons. I hope the
I hope this one's
mini
made out of
Giglio,
styrofoam.
it's like, a lot less, maybe a couple dozen pounds or something like that. But it's a cool. It's so, me especially, I think, coming from the South, I'm not used to seeing things like this. These big towers going down the road with the guy in a boat, waving the sword and all that. It's just kind of, it's different, but I find it so fascinating, because this is a celebration of, an event that happened so long ago, but they're bringing it back and making it real to people today. It's just very cool.
They sure are. Yeah. We will be there. I will be there.
Right. Hopefully not getting sunburned.
No.
Well, of course you don't sunburn though, really.
Not really.
That's me.
Yeah.
Stay with us. We've got much more currents coming up.
When we come back, going to bat for Catholic education.
It's the best way possible to educate your child.
Finally tonight, baseball and Brooklyn go together like hot dogs and mustard, or relish, or onions, or whatever you want to put on there.
Right, hot dogs and basically anything.
That's right, and you could find all that and more on Friday night at a big annual fundraiser for the Alive and Hope Foundation.
That's right, it was called Going to Bat for Education. And it's safe to say that the event was, well, a hit.
So tonight we're out at MCU Park, and we're out to celebrate Catholic education and the kids in Brooklyn and Queens and all the wonderful work they do all year round. And I'm here with the Alive and Hope Foundation and Futures in Education. And what we do, Alive and Hope, is provide scholarships to some of the brightest and best kids in our schools in Brooklyn and Queens, and some of the neediest kids in our schools too.
No, this is not only about raising money, it's about raising awareness pretty much. We make a little bit of money on the event by selling raffle tickets for Catholic education, but really it's about getting the name out there and getting to meet people within the community.
The Futures Foundation focuses exclusively on education, and Alive and Hope, we focus on education as our core priority, but we also have immigration, social services, care for senior priests.
Both organizations, Alive and Hope and Futures in Education Foundation, works very closely with the Diocese of Brooklyn to ensure that a good Catholic education continues. The kids who graduate our school, 99% of our kids graduate within 4 years, and 98% of the kids in the Diocese of Brooklyn Catholic schools go on to a 4-year college.
I actually attended Catholic school through the 12th grade myself, and I have in my adult life met other people who haven't had a Catholic education. And in so doing, I chose to make sure that my child had the same gift that my parents gave me.
From 30 years ago to now, 2010, the kids that come to our schools, that walk into our diocese, are kids that come from many different countries, represent many different nations. They're all looking for one thing, the chance at a better life, and the Catholic education gives them that first stronghold, that first foothold.
When you spend so many hours of a day outside of your home, you want to make sure that the things that you're teaching at home is also instilled and fostered in their day-to-day life. The source of excellence that we're looking for, we're looking towards the way that Christ lived. We're looking towards that community ideal. So I really feel that Catholic education that could be extended to everybody, knowing that Catholic is universal, is the best way possible to educate your child.
Well, the main goal really is to help as many families as possible to do several things. Support scholarships for the school so that kids can go to school. Also to get more people to be angels, where people can pick a student and spend $1,500 to pay half their tuition.
You know, we're about raising friends and raising funds. But tonight is mostly a night to come out and celebrate what Catholic education is all about. You know, fun, faith, and family, you know, and that's what baseball is about too. You know, you look around the stadium and you see families coming out enjoying a summer night, you know, and you look around our schools and you see families come together every day like this, you know, celebrating what's most important to them. We do this every year. You know, this is our 4th year running, so we hope to see more people out there. Score!
Pretty affordable. He said it's $1,500 for half a year, so that's, you know, actually not a bad deal, especially when you know that you're really impacting a kid's life.
Yeah, and when people, you know, struggle to pay that, I mean, it's, you know, Alive and Hope and these groups that step in and help them do that. So, I mean, for those who don't think that they can afford to be able to do that, to send their kid to a Catholic school, there is hope out there through the Alive and Hope Foundation and others as well.
There's hope and there's help. And I think that one of the things that she was saying is, you know, 30 years ago when she had a Catholic school education, she's met people that haven't had that, and she really still wants to pass that on to her kids and to other people of the new generation and have those values that she has found valuable in her life. Yeah. Present in new kids today and young children today. So that is it for tonight. Coming up tomorrow, it is the time of year, or is this rather the year of the pro-life woman. I'll talk to one woman who says yes indeed it is, and she'll explain why.
In the meantime though, remember you can always watch us online. We're over at currentsny.net. Check out our Facebook page as well. And if you have an idea for a story, or if you just want to get in touch with us, you can always drop us a line at currentsny.net. Until next time, I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great night, and please stay cool.
Yes.